For their chosen side in the ongoing battle of the Ruined King versus the Sentinels of Light. So for those of you who have been following along with the Sentinels of Light campaign, this is our summer event that takes place across all of Riot's products, where we join the Sentinels of Light trying to push back the darkness and the Ruined King Viego. So here on Legends of Runeterra, we delivered Aloar's biggest event yet and a bunch of new content, including champions, cards, cosmetics, and even the Saltwater Scourge Lab of Legends mode this last patch. We wanted the event to give players a chance to pick their side and join the fight by choosing between the Ruined and the Sentinels, with things like our community battle for the event and the two-sided battle pass. So to introduce us, my name is Rowan Williams, they, them. I'm a writer for Legends of Runeterra, and you may have seen some of the content that I've worked on. I worked on followers and champions for Call of the Mountain, Empires of the Ascended, and our upcoming set that will have us venturing into Vandal City. And of course, our Ruined King event. Our super talented artists that are going to be drawing Ruined and Sentinel Poros today are Chelsea Dew and Servando Lupini. So let's have you all introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about which side you're going to be drawing and fighting for today. Chelsea, do you want to start us off?
Hi, my name is Chelsea. I'm she, her. I'm a concept artist on Legends of Runeterra on the card art team. And I joined the team on around October last year. That was just when the quarantine happened. So have been the remote ever since.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Servando?
Hi, I'm Servando Lupini, and him. I am also an artist in the Runeterra team. I mostly do boards. I work in the personalization team, and I've been here since 2019-ish. Yeah. So I did get to start working pre-COVID, and I miss the office.
Same. Awesome. Thank you both so much. So to get into it a little bit, why a Poro contest? Well, as we created new cards for Akshan and Viego and their followers on Legends of Runeterra, it also gave us the chance to explore the rich backstory and visuals of the Sentinels of Light. So now that we're all familiar with what the event entails, we'd love to get our favorite fuzzy little friends involved, and that means Poros. So speaking of which, if you love Poros like we do and you're interested in taking a side after this stream, you can join the Fluft Feud by submitting your own Ruined or Sentinel Poro on Twitter for a chance to win some cool thematic prizes, including a one-on-one video call with one of today's featured Riot artists. We've got a graphic that you'll see on this stream, but you can also find all of the contest details at playruneterra.com. So we're going to be streaming for a couple of hours here. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. But in the meantime, we're going to give our artists a chance to get up and running, and we'll just chill out in the meantime.
Oh. It says it's still streaming. Should I stop it and... Okay.
Rimprower is going to be our little edgy boy with his fancy little edgy hair and all those spooky ghosts around him. And he's doing like a little Viego cosplay. When Viego's haunting everybody with a spooky ghost to find his wife, this little Pearl's just gonna haunt everybody to find his snacks. Yeah, all Pearls actually have an APAC underneath all of their fluff.
They do, they're very strong.
Like Brom says, the heart is the strongest muscle, so that would explain why poros are so strong.
I just thought of a Poro having a heart underneath each of their abs.
8 tiny hearts, one for each ab.
8 tiny hearts. Yep.
That seems appropriate. You know, we've never actually seen a shaved Poro. Maybe their skin underneath just has like a bunch of little hearts on it or something.
God, no. Don't do that.
They're polka dotted with hearts all over.
That'd be kind of cute though.
I don't have the authority to make it canon, but in my head it's canon. Chelsea, the little Poro that's like pushing the one in the back down to advance is so cute. I feel like when I'm going for snacks, that's my MO too.
They're food motivated.
Same. Do you mind if I ask y'all a couple questions about your art as you're working?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Cool.
Go ahead.
What? So I noticed, Chelsea, that you have this palette that you've kind of predetermined at the top of your image there. Like, what helped you sort of decide on that palette?
So all of that is just color picked from a lot of the Smash illustrations from the Ruination skins.
Nice. Cool.
So the white pretty much came from Viego's hair and the fur. And then the rest of the other ones just came from like the various metals and armor that they have.
Yeah, that makes sense. So various elements of kind of the Ruination, like Shadow Isles green.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a paint color, but I would like to think that it is somewhere. Servando, how about you? you've got like this whole Sentinel weapon unique to your Poro picked out. What inspired you to choose kind of like, is this a hammer? Is it a cool gun? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's definitely a hammer. I actually I did a couple of like quick sketches, uh, just to try and find like what kind of like personality and like weaponry I wanted for my Poro.
Oh my
And
gosh,
so
that's awesome.
one of the things that I was trying to come up is like, okay, I went through like the stereotypical like archetypes of like, you know, the fighter Poro, like spearman, wizard, ninja, and then as I was like exploring, I was thinking like, oh, okay, who's in the Sentinel team right now, and what kind of weapons do they wield, and then go from there and try to come up with like a weapon that's unique to the character. And so that's when I was like, oh, maybe just like this, since they're poros and they're kind of hamster-like, maybe like one of them is like this poro that's like in this energy ball, and he rolls around like stepping on like, like rolling through like, you know, all the wraiths. Maybe there's like a very fighter Poro. He's like this edge lord, like hardened by combat guy with like a little eye patch. Um, and then I'm kind of biased because I like Senna a lot. Like she's one of my favorite supports to play, and so I decided to go down like, oh, you know, maybe this guy like looks up to her a lot, and he kind of like dresses like her. But I ended up choosing like a hammer because it kind of silhouette wise resembles her weapon, but it's a different kind of weapon in a sense. And so that's kind of like the direction like I ended up choosing for him. I have him in like a kind of like a low cut camera angle because I imagine him being like in the Sentinel HQ, and like there's like big tall people like around him, like say like Senna is like standing like next to him, you know, and he's like this size compared to them. It's just kind of like a little cute scene. Like maybe he's really excited to be there. It's like his first day as a Sentinel. So yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. And similarly, when you kind of like picked out your color palette, was it based on some of the splash that we've got of Sentinel characters?
Correct. Yeah, this is kind of like the Sentinel color palette.
Awesome. Very cool. It's really cool to be able to kind of see like all of the iteration that you went through to kind of like land on this particular Poro.
Yeah, those were like I tried to keep those like very loose, because they're just like quick ideas of like, hey, what do I want? What kind of direction do I see I'm going with? And then once I have like a more focused idea, it's like, okay, that's when I start like polishing up the line work and stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. It looks like we have a question from the chat. So the question is, what's a specific example of a card that you wrote the lore on? So I've been involved with a couple of the sets so far on set 3, set 4, and again our kind of upcoming Vandal City set. I worked on, in set 3, Tarek, Soraka, Trundle, and Shyvana. So if you're familiar with kind of like the Dragon Guard characters or the trolls that are associated with Trundle, or even the kind of Star Shepherd that's associated with Soraka, I got to work on the lore for all of those. And part of our sort of cross-team collaboration looks like adhering to what we've already established about champions, making sure that we're kind of boosting how cool they are, because after all, they are the stars of the show, but also creating characters that feel like they fit thematically with the rest of them. I'm starting to see that telltale black mist sort of emerging from your Poro, Chelsea.
Got a lot of them. Just oozing it. Talking with my team about these poros, and one of the things we were talking about is, imagine if a poro just kind of propelled itself through the air by like squirting black mist like a cuttlefish.
Oh, that's cute.
That's perfect. I wonder if you could make like Poros made out of entirely black mist as well. We've seen from
I actually
set
had
1.
a couple of sketches of poros I've done. on a different page. Like one of them is a little encroaching mist swirl. It's giant in the sky.
Oh my gosh, it's perfect. Oh, that's so good.
And you got a little boat here, just like encroaching mist, just like that one illustration.
That's perfect.
And got a little Servando poro here.
Oh my goodness. That's so cute.
And then you got a little Ruination plucky poro.
Oh my gosh, wonderful. Yeah, carrying the little, like, aw. I know the Ruination should be taken seriously, but it's hard when it's so cute.
I'm actually using Clip Studio. I've been trying to work without Photoshop for a while, since there's been Photoshop has got quite a few features of it missing that I would really like.
What kind of features?
Like when it comes to handling large file sizes, it starts to chug. Like right now, the resolution of this is like 3K by 3K. Usually on Photoshop, you'd start noticing like some performance drops, especially when you have like a lot of layers. And also Clip Studio has this lasso fill tool that lets me just fill layers in, like fill color in a specific shape really quickly, which Photoshop does not have. And that's actually one of the main tools I use for a lot of my renderings.
Nice. Yeah, my sort of experience with any sort of art program really extends to MS Paint and not very much more. So for me, I know there's a fill bucket, but using a lasso tool seems like a much better way of approaching it.
It's like a lasso tool and a fill bucket all together in one.
Perfect. That seems about right for me. Servando, I felt like you were nodding along as well when it came to like some of the features missing from Photoshop that you might like to be able to use. Are you also using that program today, or are you using Photoshop?
No, I'm using Photoshop. However, I do have kind of like third-party apps or add-ons on Photoshop. Particularly one of the ones that I really like. It's called Coolorus, and it's kind of like this like color wheel. That I don't think you can see it because right now it's only streaming like the main window of Photoshop, but it's a really good app. It just has like this kind of like triangle shape for the color wheel basically, and then the color wheel is outside, and you can set up options to have like, oh, you know, you can pick one color, you can pick like opposing colors, and the wheel will like automatically kind of like do that for you. And then you have basically all the components for color picking, like hue, saturation, value, like RGB, like all in a little bar underneath. So it's very like it's super convenient, I guess, and that's why I kind of like I wish Photoshop had like, it does have it, but it has it separately. Like the color picker is kind of like the square, which is harder to choose like value from it because you have like from black and white and then saturation to the side, whereas like a triangle is easier to kind of like pick because it's only like saturation value and then that's it. It's only the 3 points.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I've seen like a couple of art softwares that have like a triangular color wheel. Like it's got a triangle like this, which is a lot more representative of how color things actually map onto a graph. It's like a square is actually not at all correct, just because, you know, there's only three axes for colors, which is HSB, and that's not a square, that's a triangle. So
yeah, that's sensible, especially as we think about kind of like the hex code that's been online for so long. It's sort of a from one end to the other, but it doesn't really incorporate anything that's not on that same spectrum.
Mhm.
So if you two had to give tips to the audience on how to draw a poro, what would your tips be?
They're kind of pear-shaped. Like the lower half of the body is kind of like more rounded. And the head is a little bit smaller, so you kind of get like this kind of like chubby pear. And that's like the easiest way to get like their silhouette. Or like the fastest. That's kind of like how I imagine them being, you know. And then as long as you make them kind of like cute and have the signature kind of like mustache with the little horns, I feel like you can get like pretty close to what a poro should look like. What do you think, Chelsea?
I've actually been drawing poros as like little beanie chairs, like a little beanbag with a little curve to them. I think that sometimes works. I think poros actually got a surprising amount of shape variants. You got some pear shape. You got some beanie shape. I think the main thing is like make sure that eye to tongue proportion, and that the eyes are far apart. That the tongue to the distance from the eyes is a little bit more squashed. That way, your poro stays cute.
Cool. It looks like we
They're
have.
actually surprisingly difficult.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh no, that's just it. The poros are surprisingly difficult to get right.
We have a question. In Runeterra, all the illustrations are made by the creative team, or it's like other card games that they commission an artist and make one or two illustrations for the game. Chelsea, as you are on the team doing kind of like concept illustration stuff, do you happen to know how we interact with like third-party vendors and stuff like that?
In our case, we have an internal team of concept artists who design out all the characters in the cards that are going to be illustrated. The actual illustrations themselves are done by external vendors. Most, as you see on the full art for cards, the artist listed under is the vendor that they've been illustrated by. And Kudos Production is actually our Hong Kong branch of Riot, and they actually handle a fairly good bulk of our illustration work. And the rest of it are done through other external vendors.
Awesome.
I can generally go for probably 2 hours if what I'm working on is able to keep me engaged. Not any longer than that, I need to get up and have a stretch. It really depends on how hard the how difficult the work is. Can't remember if Diego's little heart triangle is light on the outside or light on the inside. Is it?
It is light on the outside.
Ah, it is light on the outside. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. For what it's worth, I didn't know that offhand. Not an element of the character that I'm especially familiar with, but
we would be outsourcing a lot more of our illustrations if it weren't for the Hong Kong branch having a lot of talented illustrators.
yeah, gosh, actually, in your estimation, from kind of like brief to final illustration, how long do you think it takes artists to create a piece for the game?
Is that the illustration specifically?
Yeah, like one of the illustrations for the card art.
Generally from brief to illustration, I'd say on average 4 weeks per illustration. I think is about the norm.
Yeah, they're really substantial. There is a lot there, so that makes a lot of sense.
And the feedback process is pretty extensive too. I've actually been handling all of the feedback for the illustration that comes back, and I've been gathering them from the team and sending out to the vendors. And some illustrations get changed a lot before they are shipped.
Looks like we have another question, which is, are there certain artists on the team that focus on certain types of characters? So, for example, someone who does minotaurs or monsters versus someone focusing more on human characters.
Oh yeah, definitely. Chris Campbell, who was on another stream that Runeterra had, he loves his monsters. He's definitely our monster guy. And we have a couple of other members of the team, some of them who like more cute characters. I think I've actually been working on a lot of our darker characters, our spookier, creepier characters lately.
So the Ruination Poro is actually in keeping with that then.
Kind of.
For those of you who are just joining us, just a quick reminder, this is part of an ongoing effort with Legends of Runeterra and the Sentinels of Light to choose a side and draw a poro. The rules are up here on playruneterra.com, and you can follow along with the submissions on Twitter, so check them out if you're an artist yourself and you'd like to take part. But I actually have a couple of questions for our artists, so maybe starting with Servando, what made you choose the side that you did for your poro drawing today?
I think it's mostly because I like a lot of the roster for the Sentinels. Like I love playing Pike. I love playing Senna. I love playing. Well, he doesn't really technically count because the Pantheon like Prestige skin is kind of Sentinel-ish inspired. So I've been having a lot of fun playing him as well too. So I find that because a lot of the characters that I like are in the Sentinel side, that's probably why I chose it. Plus also like I feel like the color palette and the aesthetic visually is really appealing, and I just really like the combination of the golds and the black, like kind of like marble with the white marble is really pretty.
Yeah, makes sense. Chelsea, same question. What made you decide on Ruination poro?
I really like the color turquoise, and also Shadow House is definitely my favorite region in Runeterra. It's because all their cards have really interesting effects.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. Out of curiosity, if you were to say, like, beyond just the black mist, what makes a poro ruined? And same question to you, Servando, what makes a poro a sentinel poro, other than obviously their cool sentinel weapon?
Should I go first, or you want to go first, Chelsea?
Let's see. It kind of just for the Ruin Portal, it kind of just extrapolates from what a Ruin champion looks like. It's like, you know, they got like the little hole in their hearts. They got that little triple triangle crown on their forehead, and then they turn evil, and then all of what they want just comes out. So a Ruin Portal would just really like just get snacks, but in a mean way.
Just
and it's
snacks.
Really like just a ton of snacks. It's gonna haunt people for their snacks. And really, it's just about like thinking about what makes a Ruin champion look Ruin. It's like they're all wearing black. They got glowing eyes. They got floaty blackness swirling around them, and like I'm pretty much taking that and applying that to a portal.
Makes sense. I know I said it before, but I too would haunt someone for snacks, so.
Yeah, and I guess like what makes a poro like a sentinel would be, I feel like one of the things that I noticed is like the personality of the people that are like in the Sentinels team is like they're very determined and they don't give up easily. So someone who has like that kind of like fight in them, and then also like an awesome outfit crafted by Gwen, plus the Sentinel kind of like weaponry, which is like unique to the person that wields it. Like it's kind of like bound by them, or to them, sorry. So yeah, those are kind of like the characteristics that would like embody like the Sentinel.
actually pretty different.
Mm-hmm.
Like a ruin poro and then like a sentinel poro.
Yeah, although I do feel they have a similarity probably, which is food motivation. It's very important. I feel like the Sentinel Poro is a chunker as well.
Sentinel poro only goes to fight the blacksmiths because he gets snacks.
Yep, it's all about the treats.
A noble purpose, I think. We have another question, which is, will we ever see cards that aren't CGI? So coming from Magic the Gathering, they have paint and drawings and things. So they're wondering if there are any plans for the team to do stuff with maybe more of a traditional medium.
Currently, there isn't. It will be actually a little bit complicated for when it comes to our pipeline to incorporate that. I think if the circumstances align and that becomes something that we are able to do. Right now, we actually don't know if any of our artists are actually willing to do that kind of work. It really, really depends on what happens in the future.
Makes sense. There's another question from chat, which is, what are you naming the poros? Do you have a name for your poro?
Oh no. I hate to say spooky poro. There's already a spooky poro.
Good question. Let's see. Oh, that's hard. I wanna give them like a cool name, but
I'll brainstorm a little bit in the meantime. I'll come up with some good suggestions and pitch them to you.
I feel like you find out over time that I know I, as an artist, am really terrible at naming things, but I am good at making things. So, and I see that a lot too.
Yep.
We'll like draw something, and then people will be like, "Oh, so what's his name?"
Yeah.
And then when it comes back to that question, we're just like,
Yeah, that happened all the time.
For what it's worth, I think Ruined Poro and Sentinel Poro is a fine name in the meantime.
I would have been happy with Spooky Poro.
Spooky Poro is pretty good.
Spooky Poro is pretty good.
So thinking a little bit more on kind of like names for things, and I guess maybe a little bit more of the narrative side of things. One of the things we focused on with the story of Sentinels of Light was not only finding some affinity with pre-established characters in Legends of Runeterra, but ensuring that they play well with their synergistic partners. So in Viego's case, this was like Shyvana, and for Akshan, it was Riven. We were able to tie the elements of the Ruination into a bunch of the adjacent cards as well, so that they not only played well with these decks, but they were also representative of some of the theme of the Ruination. So you can see that there are some corrupted versions of old favorite characters, Riptide Rex, and some new ones as well, showing just how prevalent the Black Mist is as it goes around the whole world. For Viego, a lot of his group-specific followers are dragons, which we hadn't seen up until now. So we know from the name that some of these are from Camavor, where Viego originally set sail to find the Blessed Isles, which of course has turned into the Shadow Isles. But in this Legends of Runeterra expansion, we're able to get a better idea of what the dragons of Camavor looked like. And they're a little bit more serpent-like or snake-like with sort of retractable fangs and long, slender necks. For Akshan, the follower group associated with him is taking advantage of the fact that Akshan is out for the Warlord in his card Art's Blood. So this particular group, the Vicaran Vipers, are looking to follow closely on his heels and take back some of the wealth that's been stolen from their people. And this gave us a great opportunity to kind of emphasize the roguish nature of Akshan in complement, since he came out at the same time, of the work that was going on with League and across other products. And we also did a ton of work around the champs that already exist in our product. So like Chelsea was saying earlier, we have like Ruined Shavana, but we also have kind of skins for Sentinel Aurelia and Diana, and we also have like Ruined Draven and Karma. So kind of cool to be able to incorporate all of those elements with regard to how we're looking at the characters today. If you had to pick like one champion for your poro to hang out with, I feel like Servando, we got a little bit at Senna, but I'm curious, would Senna be the champion that your poro is hanging out with during this whole event?
No, I feel like Gwen would be more obsessed with the poro and like kind of like wanting to dress him in like all these little cute outfits. It'd be kind of like the pair of them hanging out, especially at HQ, because I feel like Senna would be more busy like planning stuff with the team.
Oh, that's so cute though. Can you imagine lots of little like Sentinel outfits for your poro?
Aww.
Super cute. How about you, Chelsea? Who would your poro hang out with primarily?
I want my little rune portal to go haunt Viego. I think Viego needs a little cuteness in his life.
Absolutely.
And also, it's just funny to have a serious character be combined with a goofy character.
That is very
Oh
cute.
yeah. I can absolutely see this spooky poro kind of like taking apart in the Ruination, just behind everything else. You've got like these lines of cool ruined characters marching forward, and then a very cute poro kind of like bringing up the rear.
Exactly. Then the Viego's ankles for attention.
Sounds like my pets.
I can imagine a very begrudging Viego giving a head pat to this poro. We actually have another question from the chat, which is, if a champ gets a visual rework in League, do we have plans to change its respective Legends of Runeterra art as well?
If they got a rework after we have released the card and finished all illustrations for the card, then no. But if the rework came afterwards, then we will adapt our card art to the rework champion. The biggest mess is when the rework comes during production on the card in Runeterra. We're completely different teams, and we may not necessarily all get to talk to one another. So when some of these problems arise, it gets messy. It gets messy and complicated. So we try our best to make our champions the best form they can be. But we're also focused on pushing things ahead and making sure that all the work gets finished and they're released on time.
So as someone who's kind of not as artistically inclined, by which I mean very much not as artistically inclined as the both of you are, can you tell us a little bit about where you're at with the stages of your poro right now, kind of like where you're at with your illustration?
You want to go first, Chelsea?
Yeah, I'm probably about halfway through the rendering stage. I'm still in the process of like figuring out what the forms of these furry little black mist fluff balls are. So that's actually been a little more difficult than I expected.
Just because they're a little bit more amorphous. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Yeah, and I'm just laying kind of like the foundation of the lighting for this guy. So I would say maybe like 50% on that.
I have a very spicy question for the two of you. Incredibly spicy. I hope you're ready. What do you think poro snacks taste like?
A cupcake?
What flavor of cupcake?
That's not a fair question because we never seen poro snacks other than vanilla flavored. They've always had white icing on them.
That's true.
I'd say cheesecake bites.
Oh, yeah. That sounds delicious. I have it in my head that for some reason, maybe it's just the circular nature of them as well as sort of the icing on the top. I've always thought of them as kind of like cinnamon rolls, like very cinnamony with the cheese, cream cheese icing and stuff like that. Then again, I guess if you're supposed to be able to kind of like take them out of your pack and feed them directly to poros, that could get really messy really quickly.
Oh God. You're making me think of like crushed cupcakes. It's not pleasant.
A crushed cupcake is just an excuse to make cake pops, I think.
That's true. Well, now I want a cake pop.
We have another question, which is, are all of the poros voiced by the same person? Which I think I can say definitively they are not voiced by the same person. But there are a number of different people who are very good at making poro noises now. So we have a wide pool of talent to pick from. This is normally where I'd offer to try and make a poro noise, but I really don't think anyone wants that. I'm probably getting way ahead of myself here because, again, I am not an artist and not particularly artistically inclined. But are either of you planning on doing kind of like a cool background for your poro, or is it mostly focused on the poro itself?
I have time, I do want to include like kind of like the feet of some of the sentinels like around him,
Aw.
you
Oh,
know.
that's cute. Aww. Yeah, I could try to do something once the portal's looking in a good place. Get some other spooky Ruination people in there. If you feed a Ruin Portal 10 snacks, I think it'll be a very, very happy Ruin Portal.
He shan't take your soul if you feed him.
That's a pretty good deal. That's a deal I'd take.
Oh yeah, something funny about the portals in Legends of Runeterra. The portals in League are actually walk on 4 legs. They never walk on their 2 legs. But all the portals in Legends of Runeterra actually all walk on 2 legs.
They're learning. They can be taught.
First, they learn to be bipedal. Next, they'll get thumbs. They already have thumbs.
They kind of have like a little dew claw on their tiny poro feet.
They do. Yeah.
I feel like this raises all sorts of questions about poro societies and how they live together, and are any of them bakers? I feel like some of them must be, right?
Oh, please, yes.
Poro snacks are the only things that we see, but they actually have a whole poro bakery that they fill with delicious poro treats. I have another slightly contentious question coming in from chat for you both. So, how big can a poro be?
Biggest portal we have so far is probably the Mighty Portal. It's like the size of like 6 or 7 portals stacked on top of each other.
That is indeed a mighty
And
portal.
one portal is like ankle high. 6 or 7 portals together would be like a person-sized portal.
7 poros in a trench coat is what I'm hearing.
Oh, that'd be cute.
My answer to that question was going to be however big a fluft can get before it, breaks apart.
Oh, that's true. That's like 20 portals in one trench coat.
that point, you just need to put like a sheet over all of them, draw a little face on it. So I noticed there's some kind of like switching between brushes. And again, as someone who's not particularly artistically inclined, I'm curious sort of how you decide upon which brush you use for coloring and shading and stuff like that.
I mostly use a round brush when I'm rendering like a character. However, I do alternate between a smudge tool to kind of like blend in certain surfaces. Like say if I'm doing like a shadow, like here, I do like a rough or like a harsh blocking with the round brush. And then in some areas I would go with the soft one, or sorry, the blending tool, and just blend some of those areas to get kind of like that nice blended effect. Then if I'm doing something really textural, I do have like a couple of brushes that I really like this old wet brush, like a vintage fading, and I don't know how to pronounce this, but Afghanomener brush. It has like a very but it has like a lot of textural quality, so I get a lot of like happy accidents when I'm doing textural work that I really like, and I leave when I'm using those.
For me, I mostly use the lasso fill tool. Because it lets me make shapes really quickly, and then I would switch when it comes to something that the lasso fill tool can't do. So stuff like things that are soft, if I need a gradient. It's actually most of this poro. I'm actually running into a wee bit of issues here.
These are both coming along so nicely. They're so cute. It's exciting to see them sort of taking shape the way that they are. So if you're just joining us, a quick reminder, this is part of an ongoing effort with Legends of Runeterra and the Sentinels of Light to choose a side and draw a poro. So this is our Fluft Feud. The rules are up here on the stream on playruneterra.com, and you can follow along with the submissions on Twitter. So check them out if you're an artist yourself and you'd like to take part. I have a couple of questions for the two of you. So no doubt a few people watching our stream today are interested in how you got your start. Not only at Riot, but I'm sure they'd like to hear a little bit more of how you got to be a concept artist. So whichever you would like to go first, I'm sure people would like to know kind of like how you got to be a concept artist.
You want to go first?
Start. I went to school at Art Center, which is a school that runs a concept art program. That's helped me a lot get like connections with some of my classmates and just having good teachers there. And then I applied to Riot's internship program, which was actually last year in their first remote internship. And after that, the team liked me and decided they wanted to keep me around. So I was able to convert to full time.
Nice. I I originally started school for kind of like more illustration background back home. Like I'm originally from Venezuela, and I worked there for a year in kind of like advertising. But I always wanted to kind of like work for like video games. And so I came here to the US to go to school. I went to Noman School of Visual Effects in LA. And then when I was on my last year working on demo reel, one of the things I worked on for my demo reel was I really loved playing WoW, and I loved like the kind of like hand painted style. So I joined or like participated in the student art contest, and was one of the winners for the environment category, and that's kind of how I got like my leg in, or like my startup at the gaming industry. Yeah, and I've been mostly like an environment artist um, on my career, I guess. And it's still working on environment, which is like the boards for Legends of Runeterra.
Awesome. I suppose the natural follow up to that question would then be, do you have any tips for the audience, potentially anyone who's interested in pursuing this career?
You want to go first, Chelsea?
I guess my situation might perhaps be a little less applicable since I was able to get in through Riot, just through like a direct application, which from what I hear from my friends does not actually happen very often. Most of the time the reliable way to get in is through referrals and people you know. So, and the trick to that really is just getting to know people and being friends with them. School tends to be a really good place to find that. But outside of that, the one method would be applying places, trying to establish connections through social media, or just randomly contacting people out of the blue. I actually got one of my freelance jobs just through messaging one of the developers at a indie game studio.
Yeah, I would say posting a lot of your work online helps out a lot, and participating in contests, or there's like a lot of things that go online where you get to show your work and get feedback from the community and other people and other artists, and that's like a good way to grow and have like kind of like exposure. and experience as well. So you can show like all that skill when you're looking for work at a company, you know. And especially nowadays with all the like really good information and like forums that are online, like I feel like it's the really like I wish I had like all that stuff when I was like first starting, because it would have been super helpful.
All that makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you both so much. We have another question for the chat, which I think in some regards may be a little bit theoretical. But the question is, how did poros get in all corners of Runeterra?
They're soft, squishy, and fluffy. And you know how cats can fit into tight spaces. I'm pretty sure you can fit a poro into some tight spaces.
Stowaways.
Always.
Gonna say like, you know, after the events that happen on the Rune Wars, like all that magical like, you know, warfare and explosion created like big bang of energy that released into the air and like rained upon Runeterra, and all the poros fell as a result of that. And they've just been like living in different corners of the world after that, you know. I know this is just me making stuff up.
No, legitimately, I was going to say something very similar, which is I think they probably just had a huge fluft somewhere in the world and they rolled downhill, and then finally, when they hit the bottom, they all exploded all over the corners of Runeterra, just far and wide.
Yeah. Or they're envoys of the void, you know. Heralds of the ends.
Don't say that, Servando.
I know, I'm joking.
I'd be very happy if the poro was a herald on my end.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine though? It would break my heart knowing that something so cute is so evil.
Point, they're everywhere, gaining people's trust, being like, yes.
They lure you in, only to destroy you. So another question for the two of you is if you have any particular inspirations when it comes to art. So do you have a favorite artist? Do you have somebody who specifically inspired you to become an artist?
I would say that probably the thing that inspired me to become an artist was two things. One of them was Magic the Gathering, because I loved the art in the cards, and I used to play a lot when I was a kid, and that was like, I don't know, I just loved that game growing up, and I was always fascinated by the art style and like traditional artwork that they used to do back in the day, and then kind of anime in a way. Like in Latin America, it was like I don't know, growing up, like for example, Saint Seiya was like a big thing. That was one of the shows that I watched, like that, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon. Is just like watching that art make me want to draw and like emulate the characters that I was seeing, and so. But nowadays, favorite artists, I guess like one of my favorite artists is his name is Sam Nielsen, and his art style is really cool and appealing. Like I loved like it's like the way that he does rendering. It looks very like it looks like a very sculptural, but it's super stylized, and to me that's kind of like fascinating. And then another artist that I really admire is Cole Eastburn, who also kind of has like a very like sculptural style. Like it's kind of weird. Like it's very textural, but when you look at it, it kind of looks like very 3D, and like it was made out of clay. And then when you look at it, it's like, oh man, that's so cool. You zoom in and you can see like all the brush strokes, and it's like, wow, how did he do this? So good.
I know that feeling. My inspirations for when I wanted to become an artist at first, and my inspirations as an artist now certainly have changed a lot. I think I was mainly inspired by the games I was playing. And for the life of me, I cannot remember what they were. I actually played a lot of StarCraft as a kid. That was one of them. And then the interest in games just kind of fed into my interest in the characters in them. And it led to me picking up drawing and then just having the desire to get better and better at it. One of my favorite artists currently now is Takegaro. They are a Japanese illustrator who's done some work on some of the characters for Pokemon. Specifically the humans in the Pokemon, in the Pokemon games. And I think another one is Nori ZC, who's an artist from has done some work for Arknights. He's also a incredibly good graphic designer. Work is really interesting and different. I am actually a third player. You are right on the money.
So while we're working, I would love to.
Servando.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was about to say Servando. I didn't know you were a Magic player.
Oh yeah, I love Commander. It's my favorite format.
Oh my god, too.
Yeah. Oh my god, we should play one day.
We should.
Yep. I love it. I can't wait till the pandemic gets to a better place so we can start playing like actual in-person card game instead of like yep. It's funny because I keep buying, like I kept buying cards, and I was like, oh man, why am I getting the cards when I don't have anyone to play with? Luckily, I have Runeterra to get that kind of like wanna play card game bug out of my system.
Yeah.
So while we're working, I would love to ask you all some questions.
Truly is a money pit. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Oh, please. We just happen to have the same cadence of speaking.
No worries. I just figured I would ask a little bit about the work that you've done for Legends of Runeterra so far. So, any particular favorites that you've made, or anything that you've really enjoyed working on?
Let's see. So far, out of the cards that have been released, I've worked on the Droplet from Ionia and the Shrine in Ionia. The one that gives things that have barrier double strike. The one that gives you a Shin.
Nice. Yeah, for me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No. You go. You finish.
I was just going to say, for the life of me, I can't remember that card's name, but I remember people saying that Shin is walking out of that portal like a wrestler walking into the ring.
For me, of the things that have been released that I've worked on, my favorite board that I worked on was the Dark Star boards. It was a really fun kind of like project to have had done. And then the thing that I'm most proud of, or the thing that I really love the most that I've worked on so far, was the Bandle board, which I don't know, it plays a lot into my personal aesthetic. Like, I love yordles, and I love like whimsy and fantasy and all that good stuff. So plus, like, it's a lot of nature too. So it plays to all the things that I love to draw and paint.
Yeah, that makes sense. You also got to work on like the Mount Targon board, KDA.
Mm-hmm.
You did the Von Yip and Dragonling Guardian concept, is that right?
Yeah. KDA was really interesting too because of the like transforming board elements of, like, you pick your song, and it's always like, oh, what can we do to make the board cool, and come up with like the features and concepting that was like really fun as well. Plus, I love KDA as like I love the skins, and I always get them, but at the same time I'm like, oh man, like I've never actually done anything in that particular aesthetic on my personal work, so it was kind of like a good fun challenge to be like, oh, let me try and like paint something that's even like, I love it, but it's definitely like out of my comfort zone regarding like art. um so yeah, that was like super fun. And Targon, I love Targon, like as a region in lore. It's like probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, lots of crystals and purple and like, I want to say almost these celestial elements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Targon is really pretty.
Yeah, the color palette is just so good. And we actually reference a lot of the card art when we're working on our boards. So, like, it's kind of synergistic. Like, we get inspired by what Chelsea's team is doing, and what the illustration team for the card art is doing. So it's like, it comes like full circle.
It's awesome. That's my favorite way to work, actually, when a bunch of different teams are just inspired by everybody else's work that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from the world building team that they put out. It's all those illustrations that you see on like the universe websites and stuff for different regions. Those are all really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chelsea, you've also worked on some of the cards like the Abominable Guardian and the Boom Baboon, and I think the one you may have been talking about was like the Sacred Protector, but also the Sharkling, which is so cool to me, like that little character, like the lurker character.
Oh yeah, little Sharkling. Sharkling's great.
No big deal, just a mouthful of teeth. You mentioned too earlier on in the stream that you had been doing a lot of the work that was kind of like spooky or scary, but I feel like the Abominable Guardian's pretty cute.
That's true. That's true. I would say the Abominable Guardian is certainly scary mechanically.
That is true.
But I like things that are scary and I like things that are cute. The two are not mutually exclusive.
I feel that in my bones. I feel that very keenly. Which actually leads me to want to ask the two of you, do you have a favorite guardian? One that you always take with you?
Yes. I love Kit. Like the fox.
Yeah.
The Spirit Blossom Fox?
Mm-hmm.
That
So
one's my favorite
cute.
too. That one and the Shurima kitty. The Shurima Fox Kit.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the sand. Yep. The sand fox. There's so many good ones. That's kind of hard
It
to choose
is,
like
yeah.
a favorite.
That's like all of those games where you've been asked to pick the Pokemon that's going to be your like main Pokemon or the one that follows you around. You're like, oh no, I love all of them equally.
No, that one's easy. Bulbasaur for life. And one. Best generation.
Agreed. We do have a question from the chat, which is where would someone begin to learn how to draw? So, should they learn anatomy or color theory, or do they just draw everything?
You should answer that a bit. Everyone has their different takes on what they do. I think you should figure out what you love drawing first, and then learn the things that help you draw what you love to draw. You like characters, learn anatomy. You like environments, learn perspective. You like props, learn perspective, I guess. Also, perspective is just pretty useful.
Very, very true. There's a lot of like really, really good courses and classes to learn all those different skills. And as long as you're practicing every day and you have a clear goal of what you want to do and where you want to get, like I feel like that should give you a pretty good indicator of where to start. Then one good thing too is like that I would at least it helped me when I was going to school is like if you know where you want to go or what you want to kind of like work at or what you're more interested in drawing or doing, like you probably can get like a lot of references of like the art that's already been made in that style or by people that you admire, and then try and achieve what they are doing, and the closer you get, the more you start like kind of like broadening up. Like you start with the basics, and then if you're getting closer, it's like, okay, now I can go and study all these other things that make me get to that point.
I think all of that is pretty sound advice. Definitely, I think for myself, I'm nowhere, again, near the level of artistry that both of you are, but whenever I kind of sit down to do something, I find that it's very helpful to have a reference handy. For the longest time, too, I felt like having a reference was cheating. So, like using pictures or even referencing anatomy from anatomy books felt a little bit like I wasn't doing an original thing. But I think, again, having reference, especially when you're starting out, is so handy.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
I was sweating while saying that. I was like, oh no, what if they disagree? I'm a fraud. I'm doing the wrong thing this entire time.
Oh, that's really good advice. Something that
The only people who don't who don't use reference, or whose reference are baked into their memories.
Mm-hmm.
Eidetic memory. Just memorize every detail of a thing that you've seen or heard before.
Yep. Trying to adjust the values around, get some of the stuff to read a bit clearer. I'm realizing that now it's chaotic.
So if you're just joining us, this is just a quick reminder. This is part of an ongoing effort with Legends of Runeterra and the Sentinels of Light to choose a side and draw a poro. So we're looking at the Fluft Feud right now with our two Riot artists. The rules for that are up here, and they're also on playruneterra.com. So you can follow along with the submissions on Twitter and check them out if you're an artist yourself and you'd like to take part. We are about a half an hour until the end of the stream, so this is my friendly reminder to the artists that you're probably looking to wrap up soon. There's a question from the chat, which is, have any concept designs or illustrations inspired game design or mechanics, or vice versa? And I can tell you from the narrative perspective, absolutely. I think often, working in sort of the pods that we do at work between design, narrative, and art, we oftentimes look to complement one another's work. So if there's a way for us to come up with a cool story for a mechanic, then we will absolutely do that. And sometimes when we're working off of especially champions from League of Legends and they already have a pre-established story, I think that will sometimes help to influence the mechanics as well. But I ask the two of you as well if you have feelings on kind of like how the art is inspired by mechanics and vice versa.
Let's see. Certainly, it depends a lot on the process. Some of our earlier sets have had their mechanics determined before the art was worked on, but I think that's been changing with some of our more recent expansions, where the design and the mechanics and the art are a bit more hand in hand, which gives us a lot more chances to have design art and have art inspired design.
And at least for boards, whenever we're concepting like a board, a lot of the design for like the mechanics of the board itself, like the interactables and stuff, are determined while we're doing it. And so it's always like they go hand in hand. As we're seeing the concept like kind of develop, it's like, oh, it'd be cool to just prop in here for it to be able to do this and that, like if it's cannon, like shoot like at the enemy board, or like, oh, if like for example for the Dark Star one, it's like when we had the planet, it's like, oh, it'd be cool if like the Mega Guardian like blows it up, and that's how you get kind of like that power fantasy. And yeah, it's like, or sometimes we know what the idea of like an interactable is, and then we kind of try and design the art for it to fit that particular idea that we had.
I know for myself, I feel like somewhat through the process of creating characters and working on card art and stuff like that, it's always really awesome to get a sort of brief of what the art is going to look like, or even just work in progress pieces are so inspiring to work off of. We end up writing a lot of stuff to complement art, and I feel like a lot of the time art ends up working with us as well to kind of like figure out what the story of a piece is going to be.
No.
We just got a great question from chat, and one that I feel very keenly, even on the narrative side of things, which is how do you deal with the ever present desire to improve something, even though the art is already considered final?
Hmm.
I think at one point it feels like it's either when I'm satisfied with it or when I've been working on something for so long I just don't want to spend any more time on it. Over time you can kind of tell when putting effort and time into something. You do get a bit of diminishing returns when it comes to putting lots of stuff into a piece.
Sometimes too, you also kind of have to let it go a little bit. Like it's hard when you're working on something and you feel really passionate and it's done. You know, like I feel like who said it? I can't remember who said like you can always keep working on something forever basically and keep making it better. But at some point you gotta let it go and be like, okay, I'm happy or satisfied, even though I know I could keep going and pushing to make it better. Like I think it's in a good enough state that like I'm happy with. And that's like a really hard thing as an artist to do. It's like learning how to do that, I guess. At least for me. Like I feel like I can always keep working on something over and over and over and over and over, like for time on end. But it's probably not good either for me, because you do get drained.
Yeah. I'm always kind of amazed at the artists that can like spend months on one illustration.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow. It is amazing how they can maintain their motivation to work on one single thing for so long.
Yeah, and it also depends on like the speed of the artist too, you know. Some people are like incredibly fast, and it's crazy. Like they can do like a really polished, like final illustration. You're like, wow, it probably took them like 3 months, and it's like, no, it's just like a week and a half, and you're like, wow, you're crazy. Why are you so good? Teach me all the secrets.
That's how I feel right now looking at both of your pieces of art here.
a lot of those interaction between the cards that we're getting through like Riven's story with her subgroup and Echoes comes from just one of the really cool collaboration that we have between like narrative and card. So especially with the more recent sets, we get to put a lot more of that in. It's always spooky when the background's dark.
For anyone who may be curious about what the music is that we're streaming right now as well, it's actually part of Riot's Music's endeavor to create a creator-safe collection. So it's DRM free and it's called Sessions Vi. So if you like chill lo-fi hip-hop beats to relax and draw poros too, you can find that online.
Yeah, it's really good to have like some sort of background music, very light, complement when you're working, gets you in the zone.
Is it like DRM free for the public as well?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. Heard of how bad it can get for creators when it comes to music.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really nice solve. We actually have another question from the chat, which is for the two of you. What is your all-time favorite poro?
I mean, even though it's not like a full-on, like you don't see him all like a lot, but the one that's like stuck in the barrel, in the cannon barrel. I love that art. It's just so derpy. I'm like, what are you doing? How? Oh my goodness.
Oh no, that one's great.
Yeah.
I don't remember what mine is. I'd say it is. Which one is it? Which one is it? I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Yeah,
Airporo is real cute.
Oh, Plunder Poro, the one with the little bounty behind him.
Yeah, his beard is so luscious.
I know. I was just thinking about that one myself.
It's because its beard is so luscious. Several times I've used that beard as like reference for some of our illustrations. Be like, hey, draw that for like that beard. That beard is tight.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I will say I really like the Sinister Poro as well, because if you just zoom in on it, you're like, oh, a Poro like wearing a little sheet. It's a very scary Poro. But then if you get like the full art of it, you can see that there's a really spooky ghost behind it as well.
Yeah, that one's cute too. I love his expression. Because usually poros are all like happy and like most of the time, and that one is kind of like not mad, but like making like a rawr, which is kind of cute.
They're very fierce. So we've got just over 10 minutes left. How would the two of you feel about describing your kind of final work here?
Like I still have like maybe 70%. Like I would like to do some more rendering and like bring it to finish, but yeah, it's like the idea is there, which is pretty clear. So I'm okay with it as a concept. Yay.
I'm pretty satisfied with how this one is turning out. But yeah, I think the background really helped a lot.
Are you two able to see each other's art at all? Or is this like just operating independent spaces?
I'm able to see Servando's art through the stream.
Excellent.
But, yeah, it's a bit delayed, but
what do you think?
I think it looks awesome. I love the mist. So cool. Like with the greens. And the expression. I love that one eye is being covered by the hair, you know? It's really cute.
You gotta get that edgy edgy hairstyle. Edgy poro. I love the hammer on your Sentinel poro. Oh, shiny. It looks so proud of itself.
Feels like he made it. His lifelong dream of being a sentinel has been achieved, you know?
Yeah. Let's see. In terms of any upcoming work, I know Servando's really excited about that Vandal board that he's been working on. Personally, I'm excited for a lot of the work for Random City. I was around to see the process of that, and there was just a lot of really fantastic interconnected stories between each of the cards in the subgroups.
Yeah, I can't wait. The set is so fun. I love the art. So many cool cards.
We're surprise, surprise! We're gonna get some Yordles in Vandal City. Woohoo!
That's actually a great lead-in for me to ask you to if you have any particular champs that you like of the ones that are out right now. Any decks that you're playing with right now?
Yes. I know it's not. I mean, obviously, like not meta, but I love. I love the deep mechanic, and so one of my favorite, like fun, like the decks that I have the most fun playing is Nautilus and Maokai deck,
Heck
and
yeah.
yeah, I just love that mechanic, and I love value, and so any deck with Heimer, I'm like, heck yeah, it's so satisfying whenever you get his spots and like just fill your boards after playing all the spells. It's like, you know, it's so good, it's so fun.
Spoken like a commander player. I know exactly what you mean.
Yep.
Me, I actually like the rarely Azir deck. It's meta, but I think I just really like the play pattern of it. That and unfortunately it's nerf, but go hard. It's really, really cool.
So, for those who may not have caught the sort of beginning part of the stream, can you remind us again what made you kind of choose these particular concepts to iterate on?
For mine, I thought the idea of like a little portal cosplaying vehicle was really cute. Like little encroachingness pearls falling behind it and giving like the little edgy haircut just to make it look really a bad pearl.
For me, I did a couple of variations on like archetypes of like fantasy characters, but at the end I kind of gravitated more towards the character that I like the most out of the Sentinels, which was like Senna. Um, and so he's kind of like I imagine him being kind of like really admiring of her and like wanting to be like a Sentinel. And so this is kind of like the moment when he becomes like part of the team and he's like looking up at all the Sentinels in the HQ. Very like awe-inspired.
So cute. So what do you two think that you'll do with the sketch concepts that you had come up with previously? Do you think you'll end up using them for anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably there's one that I actually really like besides this one, which is the idea of the hamster ball poro one, whose like weapon is like this like energy field runes that like they're like stones that float around him and make this like kind of like sphere energy field, and he just rolls around like stomping on like all the wraiths. So I really like the idea of that one, and so if I were to kind of do one, would be probably that one, just like an image of him like rolling through like the mist. That'd be pretty fun.
That's
That's
so
awesome.
cute. I'd have fun finishing up the giant encroaching mist portal.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Imagine you're out at sea and then the spooky storm rolls in. You're like, oh no. And then up in the sky is just the face of a giant portal.
I'd like to just take this moment to thank everyone for joining us for this stream. And remember that you can join the Fluft Feud by submitting your own Ruined or Sentinel Poro on Twitter for a chance to win some cool thematic prizes, actually including a one-on-one video call with one of today's featured Riot artists. So you can find all of the contest details at playruneterra.com. And of course, thank you again for joining us for this stream. Thank you so much, Chelsea and Servando, for drawing. Both of these Poros are so cute.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and be sure to check out Legends of Runeterra. We will see you on the Rift or potentially on the board.